Hey, good morning, everybody. Just finished reading J.D. Salinger's book, The Catcher in the Rye. I have never read it before. I didn't have to read it back in high school, and really started reading because my daughter is reading it in her high school class. She seemed to be really getting into the book and really liking it, and she asked me if I had ever read it. I'm like, I don't recall ever reading this book before. So she went to the trouble of going to the local library and getting me a copy and bringing it home. So I felt kind of obligated to read the book. And, I'm glad I did. It's a pretty complex novel. It's about a young man, about 16, 17 years old. It covers about, 3 days of his life. He just got kicked out of Pensy College prep school and basically is going to head home and talk to his parents about it, about why he got kicked out. So there's some apprehensive in his life. He's a very emotional kid. As the book goes on, there's some hints that possibly he was abused or perhaps even sexually taken advantage of. But that's unclear. That's kind of speculation on my part. It's just some brief allusions to that. But when you're reading the book, or at least when I read the book, I noticed the use of colors, like his red hunting hat, the green ink written on his baseball glove from his brother Allie, the poetry that was written on the glove, which seems to signify, the lushness of life. That green tends to signify in a lot of books, the renewing of life. But yet, that mitt is kept by Holden because his brother died at a young age, very tragically, and that certainly emotionally scarred him as well. So who knows what's causing Holden's troubles? Certainly adolescence isn't helping out at all. I mean, you have all those hormone issues. Parents don't typically understand you, and it seems like his parents don't really pay too much attention to him, or if they do, he's not letting on to his parents, being sympathetic to his cause. It seems like his dad is a wealthy corporate lawyer, doesn't have a lot of time to spend with his son. So perhaps there's a disconnect within the family there too. His mom comes across as somebody that has some troubles. Perhaps the marriage isn't all that good, because when Holden does describe his mom, she seems to be kind of at a distance, sort of, or at least in terms of distance with her husband, Holden's dad. But anyway, there's some strife, and some normal family strife going on. There's some changes going on in Holden's life, but for whatever reason, he just keeps getting kicked out of different schools. He's very impulsive, angry at times, and certainly depressed. He keeps talking about how he's depressed and doesn't like the way people appear to be phony. So whatever he has going on in his head, he seems like, or he interprets as other people's being phony all the time. All right, so he's not looking at life, I don't think, through well-adjusted lenses. So I do think that he is, as I said, emotionally disturbed just from the way he talks. He swears a lot, starts fights, and just seems to be more interested in dreaming about the future or about what could be. He talks about, towards the end of the book, he wants to move out west and live in a cabin and become a mute. So he doesn't have to talk to anybody. I mean, who has a dream like that? Or who wants to do stuff like that? Really good book. I guess Holden is really discovering who he is as an individual, what he wants to do for a living, when he grows up, because he has people asking him about this. People are concerned about his future, about why he got kicked out of Pensy. He has a couple teachers that try to intervene and talk with him. Mr. Spencer at the beginning of the book, and then Mr. Anatoly towards the end of the book. They sit down and listen to him a little bit, and they also talk to him about the future and what he needs to do to become more prepared for that. But he's not ready, for that yet. It's not until the very end that he starts to understand the nature of life, how it's always changing. When he sees his little sister Phoebe, how she's on the merry-go-round spinning around in circles, and that's the first time in the book that he says that he's happy. At least that I can remember in the book anyway, that he says that he's really happy. Just watching her go around and around and around. Perhaps, that's just allusions to her being able to be happy in her youthfulness and not have to understand that life can be hard and difficult at times, and how she'll have to face a complex world. J.D. Salinger, I looked up a little about his life. He was actually a war veteran in World War II. He was a part of the Normandy Beach invasion right there in France, so he saw some tremendous horrors. He was he was part of one of the first U.S. soldiers, part of that military army to infiltrate and released Jewish hostages in the concentration camp. So again, this guy J.D. Salinger, he saw some horrors of war, and perhaps that's reflected a little bit in Holden and his depressed nature, and how he's apprehensive about wanting to actually grow up, because he knows what the adult world, it can be very negative at times. But anyway, well written, a lot of harsh language, definitely not a book for younger kids. I'd say if you're younger than 15, 16 years old, don't read this book. Pretty complex and deep, so overall really good. Of course, that's why it's a classic. It's a really good book. Anyway, have a great day. Bye-bye.